Crossroads. We have with us Shashwat Shukla. He presently works with the Council of Energy, Environment and Water as a research analyst. He's also previously worked with Lakshya IAS as a faculty and interned with organizations like Niti Aayog. But let's rewind a bit more. And before all of this, he was a civil services aspirant. So let's uncover that part of your journey and understand how you ended up with a career in research, right? So, okay.
Sure. Hi, Gayatri.
So like
Uh,
many of, I think, okay, so like many of us, I think you also completed your bachelor's in engineering. उसके बाद
yes,
how did you decide कि ये करना है?
उसके पहले ही decide हो गया था. As in last final years of my engineering, I was sure कि हाँ, this is not happening. Like this is not a career that I am very interested in. It was mostly parental gaslighting that led me here. So it's not gonna pan out. So I had actually started like a foundation course with Laksh IAS Academy while I was in my final year in Mumbai. And there a few friends of mine and a few people who had like been with Lakshin and out told me that this Mumbai might not be the most a conducive place to pursue civil services aspirations. And if I wanted to give myself a good, like real shot, I should move to Delhi and try it out here. And so, yeah, I didn't mention I'm in Delhi right now for my job. So,
Okay.
so I moved here after just after I completed my grad. Like I didn't even wait for the certificate. I moved here before I could get my degree. And this was June of 2016. I moved here basically, and I stayed here. Uh, like 80% of the time was spent here till the lockdown, March 2020.
Right.
And March 2020, like with a very heavy heart, I left my hostel because I don't know what other people's experiences are. I know there's a lot of diversity of narratives out there. One of the best phases of my life, like the most enjoyable time I've spent, intellectually very freeing, and the kind of environment and the kind of literature that you're reading, the art that you're absorbing is tremendous. Like you're not getting any better. I call it the front house, like the what do you say, front house seat to humanity, basically. You can see humanity happen from the closest quarters. It is an amazing thing to experience.
Okay.
So
So
yeah, that was when. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so you really enjoyed the preparation process, huh? So what was that like
Yeah.
when you landed up in Delhi? You were going for classes regularly and you were doing all of that, or you were also preparing on your
So first year I was going to a class like the most famous one that everybody knows. So I went to that class for about a year, like before my first exam, 2017, I was done. 3 months before that, I was done.
own?
And after that, I just stayed. And then there is this cycle that UPSC aspirants will be very like familiar with, which is you do prelims test series, then you do mains ka test series, then you do mock interviews, and then you do prelims ka test series, then you do mains ka test series, and then you do mock interviews. So that is
It's a
how it goes
Chakravyuh
until it.
and you're just stuck.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I had a lot of fun doing that. That is what I can say with my experience in Delhi.
Great. And when you shifted to Delhi, did you have a number in mind कि इतने attempts देने हैं, or you were just figuring things out?
I'll I'll say that this is something which uh, I'm aware that privilege helps in setting that number high a lot. Like being from the most privileged, urban, educated, English literate, male,
Yeah.
patriarchal backgrounds helps push you a lot. I've had female friends who had their aspirations cut off just because parents wanted to marry them off. And they've had a very realistic number, like 1 or 2 years, and I'm done and I'm leaving basically because I have to escape my parents
Mm.
anyhow. And yeah, I've had friends who've not been from privileged backgrounds, caste is a big major variable there. Gender is a big variable there. So all of that works. And I was fortunate enough to have parents who basically had the guilt of saying, ki, no, we forced you into engineering, now we'll support. Now we never, whatever time you want to spend in this, we are apologetic and we'll let you do what you want to do.
Okay,
So
so
I
that
didn't have
helped.
a set number in mind. Yeah, I didn't have a set number in mind, honestly, when I came to Delhi, because when you come to Delhi, the first few months, everybody is like, "Arey, first attempt mein ho raha hai." So everybody who says otherwise is a fool. You're gonna clear it. You're gonna you're gonna get a single digit rank, one if possible, and you're gonna leave this place. But then reality settles, and then attempts pile up, and then a lot of thinking starts happening here and there with friends, with foes, with everybody, basically. Samaj ke char log also enter the conversation after that. So yeah, but I was fortunate enough to not have that like a big major variable in my mind.
Mm.
But personally, I felt that after like the second attempt, I had gained enough to not pursue UPSC as a
Full
how
time.
do I say standalone engagement. Like it was never a standalone engagement after that. I was always doing something intellectually doing something apart from UPSC after my second attempt.
Okay, great. And it also becomes monotonous after a while, right? Because those are you've been doing only this, and then you also want to do something else. Uh,
हाँ I'll say वो कभी नहीं हुआ मेरे साथ. It was
oh,
never monotonous for me. So, I
wow.
kept changing the resources I used to read with. I kept changing the way I used to prepare. I experimented so much. I had so much fun. And I realized that that was the only way of keeping myself sane, because it is the literal definition of insanity to keep banging your head against the wall and hoping for a different result.
Yes.
So to keep yourself sane or to keep motivation going, it's a UPSC tip as well as a life trick that you keep changing what you do
Mhm.
continuously, even if you're doing the same thing. So yeah, I had a lot of I changed my optional also. So
Okay.
and I went from one spectrum of an optional to another. I went from geography to anthropology. Couldn't be farther in terms of the way they approach humanities. So
Mhm.
yeah, I had a lot of fun doing this.
Okay, so you were keeping on experimenting with the whole process. Great. But
Yeah, yeah,
then,
yeah.
at what point did you decide that, okay, ho gaya, now I want to transition?
So it was two way. So after my second attempt, with a friend of mine, I was having this conversation. I had just not made it to the list. So the interview results had come out, and I had given the interview, not made it to the list, and we were a group of friends sitting together, and we would have this conversation of then what, or what sort of backup plans or whatever are we thinking about. And he gave this like sentence which hit me more than any other sentence or any other backup plan conversation that I had had with anybody else. He said, we have a lot of knowledge in the bank, it's time we encash it. Because on paper, in sitting in 2018, having prepared UPSC for civil service, so 2019 actually, having prepared for two attempts and 3 years almost, all I had on paper was that I was a mechanical engineer with a BE degree, and that identity I didn't agree with. So it was the intellectual transition of moving from an engineering background to a social sciences or humanities background. It
Mhm.
had to happen on paper as well. Yeah, that is what made sense to me. That it should happen on paper too. People should be able to see that I have a resource of knowledge, and that I can academically sustain myself and create a career out of it. It's not just about one exam that I'm reading. So yeah, that was when I decided that okay, now I can transition.
And did you always have a plan B in mind? Ki this would be something that I would like to do if this does not work out. Yeah, you then started exploring more.
Mm, so this was more of serendipitous because as I read more and more, I realized what sort of skill I was developing while I was doing it. So there are a lot of jobs out there. There are a lot of things happening basically around the world of UPSC. People are giving state exams.
Yeah.
People are giving exams for other organizations, and there are people going for corporate jobs. But while we were reading, while we were studying and discussing and going through books and notes and all that rigmarole, I realized that the skill that I was developing the most, or the most amount of addition that was happening to my knowledge base, was public policy and research. Any civil service aspirant, I can tell you, is a fantastic secondary researcher
Yeah.
right now. They can give you great academic perspectives on any policy, any even theoretical sort of paper, any theoretical argument. They can come
Hmm.
up with for, against, what has happened, history, geography of it very quickly, and write good answers and create good narratives around it for themselves and for the reader. So, as a researcher, we are pre-trained by the process,
And we don't
which
even
is what I
realize that
realized.
that's happening. Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was part serendipity, and the other part was, of course, lockdown, because it was March 2020.
Oh, so then you decided to go for a master's in the field to just get that in paper. That was your next plan.
Yeah, so after my second attempt itself, so from 2019 probably, I had started like studying or reading about what sort of institutions are welcoming of this knowledge, of this kind of knowledge, which is basically public policy or development or economics. These are the kind of humanities related masters basically.
Yeah.
And the most pertinent of those were public policy courses. So I was looking at public policy courses across India, and I came across names like Tata Institute and Jindal and Kautilya and Azim Premji, and there is a like paraphernalia of institutions. And now I think I don't even need to like send you a link on what sort of courses there are. There are like blogs that you can research and provide like for free, which have a big documentation. There are videos in Bengali and Tamil also, which exists out there for students who are preparing, that these are the kind of public policy institutes you can enter. So I saw those videos, read those blogs, and I gave my first attempt for TISS in 2019 itself. I didn't
Okay.
make it in. I made it to the interview stage and didn't make it in. Got a good like lesson on what sort of differentiates the academic side of public policy and the civil services side of public policy. That was the dissonance that I had in my approach to writing TISS entrance. And then in 2020, I made it.
If you can share a few tips for somebody who's trying to get into such institutes, what would you like to share?
Again, it depends on the kind of course you're applying for. So, the development studies in TISS, which I went for, is much more flexible with the kind of study, the kind of background that you come with. You can come from geography, you can come from history, you can come from engineering, and development studies still welcomes you. Uh, but the kind of preparation that you are doing for civil services, I think, is enough to carry you through the entrance or the first stage of most of these exams. Like test net, which is the national entrance test for TISS, or APU net, which is for Azim Premji, or Jindal, or any other institution. The exams that they are taking, or the syllabus that they expect you to read, is pretty much parallel with the kind of civil services syllabus that we are doing. It's the same. Polity, geography, history, environment, sciences, current affairs. That is the ballpark that you play in those tests as well, and probably at a uh, lower level than what the civil services prelims asks you to do.
Hmm.
So a tip for any civil service aspirant would be just keep reading whatever you're reading, and you are good. Like you're good with these exams. A tip for TISS specifically would be to look at literature and literary awards in the past year as well. So UPSC generally does
That's
not go in that direction, like looking at the Booker Prize or
yeah.
looking at Sahitya Akademi Awards or Lalit Kala Akademi Awards. This is something TISS focuses on as a matter of like constants. So there are 4 to 5 questions on these awards or these kind of literary events that happen every year. in the TISS net, which can give you like that edge which you require to clear the cutoff for development studies. There are other great courses in TISS. There is urban policy, there is rural policy, there is public policy and governance (PPG), which is like 100% match with what we do in civil services. But development is like a course which has a more like a reputed background and better academic bandwidth and a better placement record as well. So that is the kind of thing which attracts people to development studies. Apart from that, with Azim Premji, I think ah, the fees angle is also something which people have to worry about. With TISS, it's like brilliant because it's 20,000 per semester, so it can't be better than that. With Azim Premji, I think it was 80 or 90,000 per semester per year, which is
Okay.
still in the affordable range if that is the kind of thing you're worried about. The others are
Bit
might
more
expensive.
expensive.
Like, yeah, ISPP is 8 lakh per annum, Jindal is 5 lakh per annum. So that sort of fees mathematics you'll have to do with what you want to go for. TSS, I feel, also offers more options of courses that you want to go for. If you are interested in more corporate or management side of things, there is HRMLR, uh, and there is globalization and labor. There's GL, and there's one more. I'm forgetting. I think organizational change and leadership. Yeah, OCL. So there are these three courses which are more corporate oriented. But for them, there is another exam. Like TISNET is civil services preparation, civil services ka subjects, and you can
Right.
attempt directly. But then there is TIS MAT for these three, which is TISS Management Aptitude Test. So for that, you'll have to like prepare for
Prepare separately.
CAT-like subjects. Yeah, CAT-like. It is very aligned with CAT. So English and mathematics, but of management level preparation. So you'll have to like take a separate course and study about the basics of like organizational research or business curricula, MBA curricula, if you have to clear the interview of these exams. With development studies, you can walk in with your experience of your optional subject and your reading of current affairs, and you can still clear the interview as well. So my interview hinged on my optional, which was geography. As I was
Okay.
asked a lot of questions on geography, yeah, and current affairs. At that time, I think the uh, I can't remember the name. Black Lives Matter. BLM was actually raging in the US. So
Hmm.
BLM was a big theme in my interview. So yeah, my knowledge of BLM and of intersectionality was enough to carry me through that interview. So yeah, that sort of thing will makes it very like, natural for a civil service aspirant to aim for.
Right. And was it difficult to justify the gap years during the interview, or that did not come up because are they more okay?
Uh, So it was easier to justify in the TISS interview than the civil services interview. I feel the more civil services interview I gave, they were more interested. What were you doing in these gap years? Because I think civil services has also changed its tack of hiring more professionals rather than hiring aspirants who sitting in Rajendra Nagar or in Delhi for these many years and only preparing for civil services. So there it was more challenging for me to justify the gap. TISS may there were one or two questions
Hmm.
that why the gap, and then if you mention civil services, they ask about if you took any internships or you did any sort of research at
Ex-
that time. But more than that, I don't think it hurts your score big time, the interview score. So if you have a good score with the written or the oral examination, there are three stages to TISS. So there is the prelims, and then there is the written test, which is called the pre-interview test (PIT), which has now I think been converted to an oral examination because of the lockdown, and then it became an oral exam in posterity as well. So they've stopped. I think they've stopped taking the written test, and it's now extempore speech and an oral exam, and then there is the interview, final interview.
Okay.
So and your selection is based on all three of them. So
Combined.
30, 40, 30, or 40, 30, 30, I think is the weightage. So
Okay.
so if you have a good score in the
Other.
test before the interview, you can sail through. even if you have a gap year and even if that is a sore point in your interview, that does not like affect your selection a lot. Uh, so yeah, that was easier. But now in posterity, when I have hindsight with me, I can easily imagine how I could have filled those gap years, and I think these tips would help any person who is starting their preparation or who is going through their preparation to like fill those gap years. I
Right.
have tips now,
So
which I
please
didn't then.
share those tips.
So, if you are preparing for civil services, it is natural to align yourself, or it is natural to find interest in some or the other policy areas.
Hmm.
Like you might be interested in urban policy, somebody else might be interested in agriculture, a third person might be interested in foreign policy a lot, political science a lot. So there are these interest areas that we already have.
Hmm.
There are tons and tons and tons of unpaid internships that are going.
You're on.
Hmm. Yeah. So there are many unpaid internships available, like in the public domain, like LinkedIn. If you can go through like a keyword-based search of your policy domain, you will find many internships there. This is how I found most of my internships, even at TISS. Because I realized that gap year was not an important conversation entering TISS, but entering the placement, it was going to be a conversation.
Hmm.
So and inexperience, like not just gap year, the general inexperience with any other job apart from preparation was going to be a conversation.
Hmm.
And so I started scouring the internet then, and I came to know that people are more than willing and happy to let civil service aspirants join their internships and gain experience in the policy domain that they want to find. So, for example, if you I'd messaged you regarding FPRC. It's the Foreign Policy Research Center in Delhi, and Mahesh sir is more than happy to have civil service aspirants uh, at any stage of their preparation if they have a basic understanding and interest of foreign policy.
Policy.
And the internship is unpaid, but it is remote. So you can continue with your preparation. You can continue doing what you like, basically foreign policy researching, and the internship lets you produce 3 articles, which he offers a publication for. So
Oh,
you can publish while you are, yeah, you can publish while you are preparing, and you can learn foreign policy in a more in-depth manner. And if somebody has a political science international relations optional, I think there's nothing better to add on your CV than the fact that you published 3 articles. Yeah, he lets you publish 3 articles across 3 months as an intern. So that's a great opportunity. There was Dispex, which was a disaster management internship. Now, Dispex is also tied in with a larger project called Project Defy,
hmm.
which is designing education for yourself. So it has this idea of students or adults designing their own education or skill development for themselves the way they
Okay.
want to. So Defy lets you either work remotely to design or to visit in person the concept of nooks that they have. So nooks are these places in rural areas or urban areas that they have for underprivileged people or children to come and design
Learn.
their own education. Yeah, you like working on a lathe machine? Sure, here's a lathe machine. Start designing. You like working in handicrafts? Here is a handicraft toolkit basically, and then you can design more like better educational experiences with along with the person who is coming to the Nook. So because you have some understanding of handicraft, you can offer them that knowledge. You can offer them a better course on the internet where they can also learn alongside the Nook, and that experience will help you understand how communities work plus give you an insight into skill development in general how if you are into livelihood creation or skill development as a policy sector. So education that is satisfied by Dispex is disaster resilient community spaces. So you get to study disaster management and how communities can tackle disaster management in a low tech way in their own settings, basically,
Hmm.
without a lot of government support. So if you are into that kind of policy solution, you can opt for that. And there is the Niti Aayog, which welcomes people. Niti Aayog is also an unpaid internship, but it offers working with the Niti Aayog in any of the ministry verticals. So I work for the HRD, or as it is now called, the education vertical.
Hmm.
There is agriculture, there is foreign policy, sorry, external affairs, there's home, defense,
Yeah.
anything that excites you, you can apply and get in. And it's not just NEETI, you can get into any other institution. There is ORF that is offering, there's Down to Earth. There are countless organizations which
Hmm.
offer unpaid internships, and it being unpaid also means that there is a lower selection bar. So your gap year is not a conversation in those selection interviews. And then you
Right.
can, once you're in, there's no gap year. So now you have a pathway to paid internships or anything, any other career path that you want to imagine for yourself. So I feel that if people are preparing for civil service or beginning their preparation, this can sort of help reduce the general depression that also hits you while preparing for civil services, while also making it fun and exciting to work in the policy area that interests you, basically. And that is tip number 0, 1, 2 to 100. Like, find something and start working with it.
I think that's the most useful tip, something that is the most practical thing to do as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And by the
Um,
end of my TSS journey, I had done 6 or 7 internships and 2 volunteering experiences. So there was nothing left on my CV that was indicating a lack of experience in any public policy domain. I was very chaotic with my choice also, I must admit that, because I did foreign policy and disaster management and education and agriculture and parliamentary research. I did everything I could find under the sun. I was a glutton basically with the kind of internships I was seeking.
so
So
nobody could
yeah,
question you
that
during the placements, right? This gap year question did not come up.
no, no. It did not come up. In fact, the question was that aren't you like over experienced at this point with all sorts of public? How are you? How do we fit you in this narrow domain? What sort of fitting do you come up with? So yeah, it was the other challenge for me. But for people who have found interest in one domain of public policy, it is a great window of opportunity now more than ever.
Yeah. I think we can also touch a little bit upon the emotional baggage aspect, but about the
Yeah.
preparation, right? You said you've given interviews a couple of times and then to restart again, that's a very difficult journey in itself. So, how did you manage
Yeah.
that?
So for me, by the second year, I had discovered it was not the selection that was exciting me; it was the process. It was the thrill of the chase, basically. That was keeping. I like studying policy. I like studying development. I like studying geography or foreign policy or sociology or anthropology. It is not the interview which excites me. It's the preparation of the interview which excites me. So my goalposts basically changed. That I need to optimize or extract the most out of my preparation rather than achieving selection at that point. And I'll get a little cheesy here. I was watching one of these interviews of Shikhar Dhawan and the cricketer Shikhar Dhawan, and he had just been dropped from the Indian national team. So, and the interview was happening at his house, and the reporter was asking him, "Don't you feel like a challenge or an emotional burden that you've been dropped from the Indian national team? It's like the dream of every cricketer to stay current and stay with the national team and play for India, basically represent your country. आपको दुख नहीं होता कि आपको बहुत तकलीफ नहीं होती है तो बहुत ज्यादा आपके लिए दुखद समय होगा that is what the question was basically and he answered saying I am not an Indian cricketer I am a cricketer मुझे क्रिकेट खेलना अच्छा लगता है मुझे इंडिया के लिए क्रिकेट खेलना सिर्फ अच्छा नहीं लगता वो चलो सोने पे सुहागा मतलब इट्स अ चेरी ऑन द केक दैट आई प्ले फॉर द इंडियन नेशनल टीम but if you call me up tomorrow, you'll probably find me practicing with a tennis ball and with my bat down in the colony. And day after tomorrow, I'll be practicing in some gymkhana in Delhi, basically. So I will have my bat and ball and I will play cricket come what may. Who's selecting me or not selecting me is not something I'm worried about. I like playing cricket. I don't like playing cricket for India. Cricket is my liking. So I sort of got, yeah, the message sort of stayed with me. I like public policy. It's not like I won't do public policy if it does not come through UPSC. This is not the only platform where I will enjoy doing public policy. I'll enjoy doing public policy anywhere. I enjoy public policy on my toilet seat. I can enjoy it anywhere. So
Right.
that sort of conversation happened inside my head, and after that, it stopped remaining a baggage or a drag in any way. uh, Also, good company helps. So surrounding yourself with good people who are positive about the experience, who are more again, who are more interested or driven by the process and not by the end result, who are not there for gaining power, or who are not there because you gain respect and there is a lal batti at the end of it for you. Those kind of aims don't sustain, or those kind of aims, I don't feel those kind of aims are the ones that will lead you down a road of happiness. They are more dangerous than they are exciting. I feel that keeping your aims adhered to the process or enjoying what you are doing is more sustainable in the long run. So yeah, that worked for me. I understand that there is, as I mentioned earlier, there is a baggage of gender, there is a baggage of caste, class, religion, region, whatever you're coming from. Not being able to speak English is a big stressor, and it's a big disability basically while attempting this exam. I, coming from an English educated background, I understand I have certain privileges which help me have this conversation with you in the first place. But there are vernacular internships out there as well. I found internships which required a knowledge of Gujarati alone in Valsad in Gujarat. So there are internships for all backgrounds, for all languages in India, all scheduled languages basically, if you speak my lingo. So uh, the path is the path is littered with opportunities for you if you're okay not getting paid initially and then finding your way through. So yeah, if something in public policy excites you, there is a lot of way forward.
I'm sure that this would be very motivating for everybody who's watching because when we are in that preparation zone, there's this narrow vision that we have, right? कि यही एक way है, just get through, we can do something, or we can maybe reach that
Mhm.
destination, but just
Uh,
explore a bit more and you realize कि बहुत सारे opportunities.
uh, you flip the narrative. The world is living in your preparation zone. You are observing the world from a lens. At this point, you have the telescope. The sky is open for you. So just start looking at whatever star you find exciting and उसके ऊपर paper लिखना शुरू कर दो. If you like, if you feel that you have a strong connection with gender policy, or if you have a strong connection with the issue of period leave or marital rape, start writing a paper on it. Just start researching, start doing a secondary research the way you do for your notes in civil services. Start going through websites, start going through Google Scholar, find academic papers, and start writing your opinion. Initially your language will be that of a blog, but the more you write, you will come to know that you have publication in you, and you have like research articles in you. There are many. This is another tip. This is a secondary tip. There are many websites that are offering, that are continuously calling for papers or articles or opinion pieces on public policy.
Hmm.
Start writing for them. I have written for FII, which is Feminism in India. I had reviewed a book for them. I have written for PPI, Public Policy India. I have published an article on education for them. I have written for, while I was doing an internship with an MP, I also found that they were providing an opportunity to write a paper, basically on parliamentary functioning during COVID. And I was able to generate research on a comparative report of global parliaments and how they performed during COVID. Exciting, right? And for
Yeah.
any public policy enthusiast, it is exciting. And if you can produce a paper on it, there are many opportunities. Like if you are good at writing, especially, I feel more strongly about languages other than English here, because there is very little literature in Hindi on, say, delimitation, on the new parliament and its ramifications, on female reservation in the parliament, on period leave. There is very little literature in Hindi or Marathi or Bhojpuri or Tamil or Telugu or Bengali. So there is a plethora of literature that you can produce from your own language or from your own perspective, which can be published. And there are many websites which are ready to like carry your piece. There is Khabar Lahariya.
Yeah.
Khabar Lahariya is a female-led, female-owned news organization, and they do Hindi and Santhali, I think, based journalism. They welcome stories all the time. If you
Hmm.
have an opinion piece, in Hindi or in Santhali or any other language which you feel appeals to them, you can carry a story there. There are many organizations. There is Kuvira, I think, KUVIRAA. Kuvira you can explore for. It is a feminist public policy research organization. They keep welcoming articles and blog pieces for themselves. So there are there is a lot of space out there. It's just that the visibility of such spaces is low. If somebody can compile it and like keep it on the doors of civil service aspirants, or like keep a book in those stores which they pick up their news articles from, or pick up their IAS monthlies from,
Yeah.
it will be a great help for them. That is the intervention I can think of to help them out basically. These are the internships. These are the public policy websites that are welcoming your articles, that are welcoming your opinions. If you have something worth talking about, talk. Come to these forums, express yourselves. So I think that can be a great help for them.
And this is something that will not take a lot of time away from your preparation process. You can do it simultaneously and just write, find time to just write.
Yeah, yeah.
That'll help with your mains
I
preparation.
remember the maximum commitment that an internship asked of me was 20 hours a week. Like that was the maximum. So it's 5 to 10 hours a week and you're good.
Right. Great. Any other tips, suggestions that you would like to share now that you look back on your own preparation journey? Is there anything else that you think would be helpful for people who are still preparing or who are looking to transition?
I think it came naturally to me, so I have a bias towards talking about it. But if you have like any interest in the like if the preparation has started interesting you in and of itself, then I think as an aspirant you should look to develop public policy skills. There are a lot of resources online. I can share a few PDFs with you too if you want to. There are free textbooks and there are paid textbooks which are available through questionable means, which which are available for free, which can be used to enhance your public policy lens. So there are theories in public policy. There are narrative frameworks of research in policy which give your writing and which give your answering patterns a better look. They are good for your answer writing in mains, and they're good for like applying for these internships. So you can carry some skill apart from your preparation and your theoretical knowledge as well to these
Mhm.
organizations. If
Mhm.
you have a public policy skill apart from the basic reading, it's an added bonus. It helps you get selected as well. So this I found while I was uh, at TISS. So the course that I extracted most out of was my course of public policy at Uni Sydney, which was my student exchange. In one of the semesters, I had gotten a student exchange. Yeah, see,
Okay.
that is also an opportunity in these institutes. They give you student exchanges. Another friend of mine who's working at CEW with me had also secured an exchange with, I think, Roskilde in Denmark. So, and there is Sciences Po in France, which also offers student exchange programs. There is, I think, EPFL in Lausanne, Switzerland, which offers student exchange. So all these institutes send you on student exchanges. That can be exciting, and a lot of skills can be garnered there. And your UPSC past is like long behind you after that. So if that is the sort of journey you're seeking to have. So yeah, I feel that if you have an interest in public policy, start reading up a little more on policy as well, especially after your first or second attempt. If
Mhm.
you feel that you need to build skills and you need to build a backup plan, even during the first attempt, I feel, because it helps with your answer writing. So it is going to help you in selection. It's not like it's a wasted time or it's an extra skill that is not necessary for civil service. I feel that as policymakers, we need to have public policy skills.
Right.
So yeah, from my bias, I'm offering that extra insight.
Great. I think that all your insights were super helpful, especially anybody who's looking to build a career there or somebody who is looking to transfer their skills, whatever that they've gained during the process, right? Just transfer that and build a career out of that. I think this will be super useful for them. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights, Shashwat.